Back in the 70s, dinner time was about more than just feeding the family. It was a time to gather around the table, share stories, and enjoy hearty, satisfying meals. With the rise of convenience foods and bold new flavors, families across the country embraced dishes that were simple, yet full of flavor. Today, we're taking a nostalgic look at those iconic meals that once defined dinner tables but have nearly faded from memory. Let's honor the dinners that filled our homes with warmth, love, and unforgettable flavors. Swedish meatballs with egg noodles. Swedish meatballs with egg noodles was a dish that captured the essence of the 1970s, love for both convenience and comfort. This dish, inspired by Scandinavian cuisine, was a perfect blend of rich flavors and easy preparation, making it an ideal choice for busy families or casual dinner parties. It offered a touch of sophistication with its creamy sauce, while still feeling familiar enough to be comforting. Swedish meatballs became a staple on American tables during the 70s, thanks to its balance of savory meatballs, a velvety sauce, and the hearty texture of egg noodles, all combining to make an irresistible meal.
Nice and warm and delicious. Swedish meatballs with some egg noodles.
At the heart of Swedish meatballs was the meatball itself. Made from a mix of ground beef and pork, these little orbs were seasoned simply but beautifully with salt, pepper, and a hint of nutmeg, all key components of the flavor profile that defined this dish. The ground meat was bound together with breadcrumbs, eggs, and a bit of milk, which kept the meatballs tender and moist. After being rolled into small, bite-sized portions, the meatballs were pan-fried to a golden brown crisp on the outside, locking in all the savory goodness inside. They were then simmered in a creamy sauce, made of beef broth, sour cream, and a touch of flour to thicken it. The sauce enveloped the meatballs in a luscious, rich coating, creating the perfect contrast to the crispy exterior. To make the dish complete, Swedish meatballs were traditionally served over egg noodles, which had the perfect texture to soak up the creamy sauce. Egg noodles are soft, yet slightly firm, with the ability to hold just the right amount of sauce, making every bite a delicious balance of pasta, meatball, and rich gravy. A sprinkle of fresh parsley was often added for a burst of color and a touch of freshness, making the dish look as appealing as it tasted. What made Swedish meatballs so popular in the 1970s was their versatility and the ease with which they could be prepared. This was a time when convenience foods were on the rise, but people still valued a home-cooked meal that could feed a family without a lot of fuss. Swedish meatballs allowed home cooks to make a dish that seemed fancy, something you might have at a dinner party, but was still quick and easy enough for a weeknight. The ingredients were accessible, and the method didn't require any advanced culinary skills. Yet the end result felt luxurious. It was one of those meals that made you feel like you were indulging, even if you were just sitting down to a regular dinner. The dish also resonated with the 70s obsession with international foods. As the world became more connected, American home cooks began experimenting with flavors and dishes from other cultures. Swedish meatballs, with their creamy sauce and familiar ingredients, offered a small taste of something exotic, without straying too far from American comfort food. It gave families a chance to embrace the idea of global cuisine without venturing too far from their culinary comfort zones. Whether served as a main course at dinner or as part of a festive meal, Swedish meatballs with egg noodles were a dish that could be easily doubled to serve a crowd, making it a great option for potlucks and gatherings. The leftovers were just as satisfying as the flavors only deepened after a day in the fridge. The combination of savory meatballs, creamy sauce, and the satisfying texture of egg noodles made it a perfect dish for anyone craving something hearty and comforting. Even though Swedish meatballs might not be as common today, it remains a nostalgic reminder of the warmth and homey feel of 1970s cooking. Simple, satisfying, and always delicious. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff was a standout dish in the 1970s, perfectly encapsulating the decade's love for rich, comforting meals with a touch of elegance. Though the dish has Russian origins, it became an American favorite as the 1970s saw a rise in interest for international cuisine. Its combination of tender beef, creamy sauce, and earthy mushrooms quickly made it a go-to for both family dinners and dinner parties, offering a sense of sophistication without requiring advanced culinary skills. At its core, beef stroganoff is made by sautéing tender strips of beef, typically sirloin or tenderloin, in a hot skillet, allowing the meat to brown and develop a savory depth of flavor. The beef is then removed, and in the same pan, onions and mushrooms are sautéed, soaking up all the delicious bits left behind. The magic happens when a rich sauce made from beef broth, sour cream, and sometimes a splash of white wine or mustard is added. This creates a creamy, velvety coating that envelops the beef, making each bite melt in your mouth.
Beef stroganoff, and it comes together so easy.
Often, beef stroganoff is served over egg noodles, which have the perfect texture to soak up the sauce, but it could also be paired with mashed potatoes or rice. What made beef stroganoff such a hit in the 70s was its ability to be both indulgent and easy to prepare. While it may seem like a fancy dish, the recipe was simple and accessible for home cooks. The flavors were rich, comforting, and satisfying, making it a great choice for a special meal without requiring complex techniques. Beef stroganoff also offered versatility. Cooks could tweak the sauce by adding different spices or even extra vegetables like bell peppers or peas. It was a dish that felt special enough for a dinner party, but easy enough for a weekday meal. The combination of creamy sauce and tender beef made it a dish that families and guests alike could enjoy, and its popularity in the 1970s solidified its place as a classic comfort food. Chicken a la king. Chicken a la king was the epitome of 70s home-cooked elegance, an easy way to bring a touch of sophistication to the dinner table without much effort.
Chicken a la king. Nobody really knows how this great American comfort food classic got its name.
This creamy, comforting dish was often seen at dinner parties or served as a special family meal, combining tender chicken with a rich, velvety sauce made from cream, butter, and often a splash of sherry or white wine. Its name even sounded fancy, but the beauty of chicken a la king lay in its simplicity, making it the perfect balance of indulgence and ease. Traditionally, chicken a la king was made by sautéing chunks of chicken breast along with vegetables like bell peppers, mushrooms, and peas. These ingredients were then bathed in a thick, creamy sauce made from chicken broth, cream, and sometimes a hint of paprika or sherry to deepen the flavor. The dish could be served over toast, rice, or even in a puff pastry shell, each bite offering a delicate balance of rich sauce and tender chicken. Its creamy consistency made it incredibly satisfying, yet it never felt too heavy, allowing it to be a go-to for dinner guests or an indulgent weeknight treat. What made chicken a la king so loved in the 70s was that it struck the perfect note of feeling fancy while being surprisingly quick and easy to prepare. It represented the era's love for convenience without sacrificing flavor. Its versatility also made it a favorite. Some families would add mushrooms or peas, while others got creative with the seasoning. No matter the variation, chicken a la king remained a comforting, creamy dish that felt special, even if it was served in the most casual of settings. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole became a quintessential comfort food during the 1970s, filling dinner tables across America with its hearty, no-fuss appeal. It was the kind of dish that seemed to be made for busy families on a budget, cheap, filling, and surprisingly delicious. With its creamy base, tender noodles, and a touch of cheese, tuna noodle casserole was a meal that provided both comfort and convenience, a perfect solution for hectic weeknights or days when you just didn't want to spend too much time in the kitchen. The dish typically consisted of canned tuna mixed with egg noodles, peas, and a creamy sauce made from mushroom soup, milk, and a generous amount of cheese. After everything was stirred together, it was topped with breadcrumbs or crispy fried onions for that extra crunch and baked to golden perfection. The result was a warm, cheesy casserole that was as comforting as it was satisfying, with every bite offering a little bit of nostalgia. The tuna added a salty, savory element, while the creamy sauce balanced it all out, making for a dish that was easy to love. Tuna noodle casserole became a go-to meal for its simplicity and affordability. During a decade where family meals had to be quick and inexpensive, this dish was a lifesaver.
Tuna noodle casserole, the king of the comfort food casseroles.
Canned tuna, a pantry staple, was the star ingredient, making it not only affordable, but also long-lasting. While the basic recipe remained unchanged, many home cooks added their own twist, whether by throwing in extra vegetables or experimenting with different types of cheese. No matter how it was made, tuna noodle casserole remained a comforting, reliable meal that many still remember fondly as a staple of 70s kitchens. Chopsoie. Chopsoie was a dish that captured the American appetite for adventure in the 1970s, bringing a taste of Chinese-American fusion to dinner tables across the country. As the popularity of Chinese food surged in the US, chopsoie became one of the most iconic and approachable dishes, offering a mix of stir-fried vegetables, meat, and soy sauce that was both comforting and exotic at the same time. Though it wasn't truly traditional Chinese cuisine.
Chopsoie, a lot of people believe that this dish was invented in the United States.
Its Americanized version hit the sweet spot for families looking to try something new without stepping too far outside their comfort zones. The beauty of Chopsoie was in its versatility. You could use any combination of meat, often chicken, pork, or beef, and pair it with a variety of vegetables like bell peppers, water chestnuts, bean sprouts, and onions. The ingredients were quickly stir-fried in a hot pan, then tossed in a savory soy-based sauce that was sometimes thickened with cornstarch. It was usually served over a bed of rice, soaking up all the savory flavors of the sauce. This quick, simple dish brought the warmth of the wok into American kitchens, offering a satisfying and colorful meal that was easy to prepare and pleasing to a variety of tastes. By the 70s, Chopsoie was no longer just a dish for special occasions or restaurants. It had firmly planted itself as a staple for home cooks. It was often one of those weeknight meals that came together in a flash, yet still felt like a small treat. Despite its inauthentic origins, Chopsoie became synonymous with exotic dining in the 70s, allowing families to experience a taste of Chinese food without leaving the comfort of their own home. As a symbol of the decade's love for quick, easy, and flavorful meals, Chopsoie offered a sense of adventure on a plate and a memory for many of what dining out, or dining fancy, felt like during that time. Meatloaf. Meatloaf was a cornerstone of 70s family dinners, the kind of meal that was hearty, filling, and made in large enough portions to feed the whole family without breaking the bank.
Today I'm making ketchup-glazed meatloaf.
This humble dish has been a beloved part of American cuisine for generations, but the 1970s saw it become a true staple in homes across the country. With its savory blend of ground beef, or sometimes pork, and breadcrumbs, meatloaf was the ultimate comfort food, a reliable, no-fuss dish that could be made quickly, yet still felt like a warm, satisfying hug at the end of a busy day. The beauty of meatloaf lay in its simplicity. Ground meat was mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, onions, and seasonings, then shaped into a loaf and baked until golden and tender. The secret to its success often lay in the glaze, usually a mixture of ketchup or barbecue sauce that would caramelize as it baked, creating a sweet and tangy crust that complemented the savory interior. Served alongside mashed potatoes and peas, it was the type of meal that left you feeling full and content, a true reflection of the 70s' love for hearty, straightforward dishes. What made meatloaf so popular in the 70s was its versatility. It was easy to customize based on what you had in your pantry, and it could easily be made in large batches to stretch a family's budget. Leftovers were often turned into sandwiches the next day, making it a meal that kept on giving. Meatloaf also fit well into the decade's fondness for convenience, as it could be prepared in advance and popped into the oven when dinner time came around. It may not have been the most glamorous dish, but it was beloved for its comforting predictability, something that remains at the heart of what makes meatloaf an enduring classic. Stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed bell peppers were a quintessential 70s dish that blended practicality with a little flair. This vibrant meal was the perfect example of how the 70s embraced both convenience and creativity in the kitchen.
Delicious stuffed bell peppers.
Bell peppers, once seen as a simple vegetable, were hollowed out and filled with a savory mixture of ground meat, rice, tomatoes, and spices, then baked to perfection. It was a one-dish meal that could be made in large batches, feeding a hungry family with minimal fuss, yet it still had a slightly exotic feel that made it special. The stuffed peppers were usually made with a mix of ground beef or turkey, rice, onions, garlic, and a tomato-based sauce. Some recipes called for cheese to be sprinkled on top before baking, adding an extra layer of richness. As the peppers roasted, their natural sweetness became a perfect counterbalance to the savory filling inside, creating a dish that was not only filling, but bursting with flavor. The colorful peppers made the meal visually appealing, brightening up any dinner table with their cheerful hues. What made stuffed bell peppers so popular in the 70s was their versatility. Cooks could easily adjust the stuffing to suit their tastes or dietary preferences, swapping in different meats, grains, or even adding vegetables like mushrooms or corn. For busy families, it was an easy meal to prepare in advance, and leftovers could be stored and reheated for the next day's lunch. Stuffed bell peppers felt like a hearty, satisfying dinner, but were simple enough to make on a weeknight. They represented the 70s love for resourceful, flavorful dishes, using simple, affordable ingredients to create a meal that felt a bit more elevated without being overly complicated. Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes were a 1970s dinner time favorite that combined convenience with pure, messy fun. These deliciously saucy sandwiches made use of ground beef or turkey and a tangy, sweet tomato-based sauce that soaked into a soft hamburger bun. The dish was perfect for casual family dinners, allowing everyone to get a little bit messy while digging into a meal that was as comforting as it was satisfying. It was the kind of dinner that didn't require much effort, yet it always seemed to hit the spot, making it an instant hit in kitchens across America. The beauty of Sloppy Joes lay in their simplicity. Ground beef was browned and then simmered in a sauce made from ketchup, mustard, brown sugar, and Worcestershire sauce. The result was a sweet, tangy, and slightly spicy mixture that could be spooned onto hamburger buns, ready for a big, satisfying bite. Often served with a side of crispy potato chips or a simple salad, Sloppy Joes were an easy dinner that everyone could enjoy without much fuss.
Sloppy Joes. They are incredibly delicious.
The sauce was what made the dish so memorable, the perfect balance of savory and sweet that everyone loved. What made Sloppy Joes so popular in the 70s was their flexibility. They were quick to prepare, inexpensive, and could easily be adapted to suit different tastes. You could make them spicier or add extra ingredients like peppers or onions to give the sauce more depth. For busy families, Sloppy Joes were a weeknight hero, a meal that didn't require much prep but was guaranteed to be devoured by all. It was a dish that didn't take itself too seriously, but still managed to deliver big on flavor. Despite being a bit messy to eat, Sloppy Joes were always a hit, and still bring back fond memories of those simpler, saucier times. Chicken cacciatore. Chicken cacciatore, a dish rooted in rustic Italian cooking, found a special place in American kitchens during the 1970s. This comforting, hearty meal, with its tender chicken simmered in a rich tomato-based sauce, was a perfect fit for the decade's growing appreciation for more international flavors. Yet, despite its Italian origins, chicken cacciatore felt wonderfully familiar and homey, making it a favorite for family dinners and special occasions alike. It combined the earthy flavors of tomatoes, olives, and herbs, creating a dish that felt like a warm embrace after a long day. The dish itself was simple but flavorful. Bone-in chicken pieces, often thighs or drumsticks, were browned in a pan before being slowly simmered in a sauce made from tomatoes, garlic, onions, olives, and sometimes a splash of wine. Fresh herbs like basil and oregano infused the sauce with a delightful aroma, while the chicken absorbed all the savory flavors, becoming tender and juicy as it cooked. Often served over pasta, rice, or with crusty bread to soak up the sauce, chicken cacciatore was a hearty, comforting dish that made the most of its few ingredients. What made chicken cacciatore so beloved in the 70s was its versatility and the fact that it was incredibly satisfying without being overly complicated. It was the kind of meal you could prepare ahead of time and let simmer on the stove while you went about your day. The slow cooking process allowed the flavors to meld together beautifully, creating a dish that felt both rustic and refined. Whether made for a Sunday dinner or a weeknight meal, chicken cacciatore delivered the kind of warm, rich flavors that made it a staple in many households, offering a taste of Italy right at the dinner table. Baked ziti. Baked ziti was the kind of hearty, crowd-pleasing dish that defined many family dinners in the 1970s. This cheesy, tomato-sauced pasta bake brought comfort to the dinner table with minimal effort, making it a go-to meal for busy families looking for something filling and satisfying. The dish combined tender ziti pasta with marinara sauce, melted mozzarella, and ricotta, all baked together until golden and bubbly. With layers of cheese and a savory tomato sauce, baked ziti became the quintessential comfort food, offering the perfect balance of warmth and indulgence. The magic of baked ziti lay in its simplicity. The pasta was boiled until tender, then layered with a rich tomato sauce, seasoned with garlic, herbs, and a generous amount of cheese. Ricotta cheese added a creamy layer of richness, while mozzarella melted into the dish, turning every bite into a gooey, cheesy delight. Once baked, the top became beautifully golden, with a slight crispiness that contrasted with the soft, comforting pasta inside. The result was a dish that felt homemade, but was also easy enough to prepare after a long day. What made baked ziti so popular in the 70s was its versatility and ease. It was a meal that could be prepared in advance, stored in the fridge, and baked when needed, perfect for busy weeknights or for serving guests. The dish also allowed for substitutions and variations. Ground meat could be added for extra protein, or the sauce could be spiced up with a little extra garlic or red pepper flakes. No matter how it was made, baked ziti became a go-to meal that satisfied even the hungriest appetites. With its comforting flavors and straightforward preparation, it was the kind of meal that brought people together, making it a staple in homes across the country. Jello Salad. Jello salad was a quintessential part of 70s cuisine, often appearing at potlucks, family dinners, and holiday feasts. This vibrant, wobbly dessert, or sometimes side dish depending on the recipe, was a playful, fun addition to any meal. As strange as it might seem today, Jello salads were loved for their colorful layers, refreshing sweetness, and the sheer creativity they allowed in the kitchen. Whether made with fruit, marshmallows, or even cottage cheese, Jello salad embodied the 70s love for convenience and bold flavors, often served alongside meatloaf or roast chicken as a whimsical contrast to the savory dishes. The dish itself could be as simple or as elaborate as you liked. A classic Jello salad might start with a box of Jello, mixed with water, and then chilled until set. From there, creativity took over. Canned fruit, whipped cream, or marshmallows were often added, turning it into a creamy, fruity concoction. Some recipes even included ingredients like carrots or celery for an unexpected crunch, though these days, that combination might seem a bit odd. The result was a gelatinous, colorful salad that jiggled on the plate, creating a nostalgic treat that was both visually striking and satisfyingly sweet. What made Jello salad such a favorite in the 70s was its versatility and ease. The convenience of using store-bought gelatin mixed with canned fruit or even prepared in layers for a more dramatic effect made it an easy option for busy cooks. It was also a dish that could be made ahead of time, allowing hosts to focus on the main course. Whether it was bright green lime Jello with pineapple or a creamy pink strawberry Jello with marshmallows, it added a pop of color and sweetness to any meal. Despite falling out of favor in recent years, Jello salad still holds a quirky place in the hearts of those who grew up with its jiggly, sugary charm. Hamburger Helper. Hamburger Helper was the epitome of 70s convenience cooking, a beloved dish that made weeknight dinners quicker, easier, and more affordable for busy families. Introduced in the late 1960s, this prepackaged mix took off in the 70s, offering a solution for busy parents who wanted to feed their families a hearty meal without spending too much time in the kitchen. It was the perfect meal for the times, simple, quick, and comforting, often transforming a pound of ground beef into a complete dish that could feed the entire family with minimal effort. The basic concept of Hamburger Helper was simple. You browned ground beef, added the seasoning mix and pasta from the box, and stirred in water and milk to create a creamy, flavorful sauce. The result was a one-pot dish that could range from cheesy and mild to more savory with added spices. The flavors were designed to appeal to everyone, and with varieties like cheeseburger macaroni, beef stroganoff, and Italian, Hamburger Helper became a go-to option for families who craved simplicity without sacrificing flavor. It was a meal that, with the help of a box, felt like a full dinner, complete with noodles and sauce that melded perfectly together. What made Hamburger Helper so popular in the 70s was its convenience and affordability. It allowed families to stretch a pound of meat into a meal that fed more people, all while cutting down on prep time and dishes. For busy parents juggling work, school, and family, Hamburger Helper was a lifesaver, saving them from the pressure of preparing a complicated dinner after a long day. Despite its simplicity, it was comforting, cheesy, and downright satisfying, earning it a place in the hearts and homes of countless families during the 1970s. Even if it's not as commonly seen on dinner tables today, it remains a nostalgic reminder of the decade's fondness for easy, reliable meals. Beef Wellington. Beef Wellington was the ultimate showstopper dish of the 1970s, representing both luxury and decadence in an era that loved to indulge in rich flavors and impressive presentation. Though its origins date back to the 19th century, this dish made a resurgence in the 70s as home cooks sought ways to create a truly spectacular meal for special occasions. The combination of tender beef, earthy mushrooms, and buttery puff pastry made it the star of dinner parties, festive gatherings, and holiday feasts, earning it a place as one of the decade's most iconic dishes. At the heart of Beef Wellington was a tender, juicy cut of beef, typically a whole beef tenderloin, which was seared to perfection. It was then coated with a mixture of finely chopped mushrooms, duxelle, and sometimes a layer of prosciutto or pâté, before being wrapped in puff pastry and baked. The pastry browned to a golden flaky perfection, encasing the beef and its flavorful fillings, creating a visual and culinary masterpiece. When sliced, the Wellington revealed a beautiful cross-section of beef, mushrooms, and pastry, offering a bite that was both rich and comforting, yet refined. The appeal of beef Wellington in the 70s was more than just its flavor. It was the ultimate symbol of sophistication. For a decade that was embracing the finer things in life, beef Wellington became the go-to dish for anyone wanting to impress guests or mark a special occasion. While it was a bit more labor-intensive than most weekday meals, the end result was always worth the effort. This dish encapsulated the 70s obsession with extravagant food, a time when home cooks wanted to show off their culinary skills and create meals that felt both indulgent and memorable. Though it's not as common today, beef Wellington remains a classic, forever tied to the glamorous dinner parties and special celebrations of the 1970s. Fried chicken. Fried chicken was a staple of comfort food throughout the 1970s, making its way onto dinner tables for everything from casual family meals to holiday feasts. Though its roots are deeply tied to Southern cuisine, fried chicken became an iconic dish across the country during this time, often seen as the ultimate indulgence. The crispy, golden brown crust, paired with juicy, tender chicken on the inside, made it a meal that was loved by both kids and adults alike. Whether served with mashed potatoes, cornbread, or a simple salad, fried chicken had a way of bringing people together around the table. What made the fried chicken of the 70s so special was the perfect balance of crispy exterior and moist interior. The chicken pieces were coated in a seasoned flour mixture and deep-fried until golden and crunchy. This process created a satisfying crunch with every bite, while the chicken inside remained tender and flavorful. Seasonings ranged from basic salt and pepper to more complex blends of paprika, garlic powder, and cayenne pepper, giving each batch a unique flavor profile. Whether prepared at home or ordered from a local diner or fast food chain, fried chicken represented a meal that was both satisfying and comforting. Fried chicken in the 70s wasn't just about flavor, it was about the experience. For families, it often meant a meal shared together, hands dirty from the crispy coating, and bellies full of one of the simplest joys in life. It was also a dish that brought people together at picnics, barbecues, and gatherings, where fried chicken was often the centerpiece. Despite its humble roots, fried chicken in the 70s had an air of celebration, becoming synonymous with warmth, togetherness, and indulgence. While trends have come and gone, fried chicken continues to hold a special place in the hearts of those who remember it as a go-to family favorite during a time when food was all about comfort and simplicity. Pot roast. Pot roast was the kind of dish that defined the family dinner table in the 1970s, simple, hearty, and steeped in tradition. It was the perfect meal for a slow Sunday afternoon, filling the house with comforting aromas as it simmered away in the oven. This one-pot meal made the most of a tough cut of beef, transforming it into a tender, juicy roast through hours of slow cooking. With its tender vegetables, savory broth, and rich flavor, pot roast was a beloved comfort food that could easily feed a crowd and was often served during family gatherings, holidays, or after a busy week. The key to a perfect pot roast lay in the slow cooking process. A tough cut of beef, such as a chuck roast, was seared on all sides to lock in flavor, then cooked low and slow with root vegetables like carrots, onions, and potatoes. The pot was filled with a simple broth made of beef stock, herbs, and perhaps a splash of red wine, which would gradually tenderize the meat over time, allowing all the flavors to meld together. As it slowly roasted, the meat became fall-apart tender, while the vegetables absorbed the savory goodness of the broth. When served, each bite of the meat melted in your mouth, while the vegetables provided a sweet, earthy contrast to the richness of the roast. What made pot roast so popular in the 1970s was its simplicity and heartiness. It was the kind of meal that required minimal effort but delivered maximum flavor, making it perfect for busy families or those looking to make a meal that would last for days. Leftovers were often turned into sandwiches or used in soups, giving this dish a second life and making it even more economical. Pot roast also captured the essence of family dining. People gathered around the table to enjoy the fruits of hours of slow cooking, with the meal acting as a centerpiece for conversation and togetherness. In an era that appreciated both convenience and comfort, pot roast was a dish that effortlessly combined both, offering a sense of warmth and nostalgia that still endures today. Fetuccini Alfredo. Fetuccini Alfredo was one of the signature dishes of the 1970s, capturing the decade's love for indulgent, creamy comfort food. Although the dish has its roots in Italy, it became a sensation in American kitchens during the 70s as more people began to embrace Italian-American cuisine. Its rich, velvety sauce, made from butter, cream, and Parmesan cheese, became synonymous with decadence, and the tender ribbons of fettuccine pasta were the perfect vehicle to soak up the luscious sauce. Fettuccine Alfredo was the ultimate way to indulge in a satisfying yet simple dish, and it quickly became a favorite for family dinners and special occasions alike. At its core, Fetuccini Alfredo is all about the sauce, a creamy, buttery concoction that coats each piece of pasta in an indulgent, silky layer. The sauce is made by melting butter in a pan, then adding heavy cream and a generous amount of Parmesan cheese, stirring until everything comes together in a rich, smooth mixture. The fettuccine pasta is cooked al dente and then tossed in the sauce, allowing the pasta to absorb the rich flavors. A sprinkle of extra Parmesan on top gives the dish that final touch of cheesy perfection. It's a dish that feels both luxurious and comforting, making it ideal for everything from casual weeknight dinners to elegant dinner parties. The popularity of Fetuccini Alfredo in the 70s can be attributed to its simplicity and ability to feel like a fancy meal without requiring hours of preparation. While the dish may have originated as a humble pasta recipe in Rome, the Americanized version quickly became a symbol of sophistication, especially in the era's burgeoning obsession with Italian cuisine. It was also incredibly versatile. Many home cooks began to add chicken, shrimp, or vegetables like broccoli to their Alfredo, creating variations that suited different tastes. Whether made for a family meal or a date night at home, Fetuccini Alfredo delivered that creamy, comforting satisfaction everyone craved during a decade that celebrated both indulgence and simplicity in the kitchen. Chili. Chili was a beloved dish that perfectly embodied the spirit of the 1970s. A time when hearty, filling meals were a must for busy families. Known for its rich, spicy flavor and versatility, chili became a regular fixture in American kitchens, offering a satisfying way to feed a crowd with minimal effort. This one-pot meal combined ground beef, or other meats, beans, tomatoes, and an array of spices, creating a comforting dish that could be enjoyed year-round. Whether served with cornbread or over rice, chili was the kind of meal that brought people together, warming up even the coldest of nights. The beauty of chili lay in its adaptability. The base of the dish typically consisted of ground beef, simmered with onions and garlic, and seasoned with chili powder, cumin, paprika, and sometimes a touch of cayenne pepper for heat. Tomatoes, beans, and a variety of vegetables, like bell peppers and corn, were then added to create a thick, flavorful stew. As it simmered on the stovetop, the flavors melded together, creating a savory, spicy, and comforting dish. While the most common version of chili included kidney or pinto beans, cooks often made variations with black beans or even omitted them altogether for a meatier dish. Some added a pinch of cocoa powder or dark chocolate for richness, while others gave it a southwestern twist with jalapenos or a sprinkle of cheddar cheese on top. Chili's popularity in the 1970s was fueled by its ease of preparation and its ability to stretch ingredients to feed a crowd. It was the ultimate comfort food, perfect for everything from a weeknight dinner to a gathering with friends. In fact, chili was often served at potlucks, with families and neighbors bringing their own variations to share. Its versatility also made it ideal for meal prep, as it could be made in large batches and easily reheated, making it a perfect make-ahead meal. Whether you liked it mild or with a kick, chili in the 70s was a go-to dish that hit all the right notes of warmth, flavor, and satisfaction. Cabbage Rolls. Cabbage rolls were a hearty and comforting staple in many households during the 1970s, offering a filling and flavorful meal that could feed a crowd without breaking the bank. This dish, with its humble roots in Eastern European cuisine, became a beloved part of the American culinary landscape, particularly for families looking to make the most of inexpensive ingredients. Wrapped in tender cabbage leaves, the stuffing could vary, but typically included ground meat, rice, and seasonings, creating a balance of textures and flavors. Baked in a savory tomato sauce, cabbage rolls became the ultimate comfort food, simple, satisfying, and easy to prepare in advance. To make cabbage rolls, the outer leaves of a cabbage were blanched until tender, making them pliable enough to wrap around a filling of seasoned ground beef or pork, cooked rice, and onions. Some recipes also included herbs like dill or thyme, while others added a bit of garlic or a splash of Worcestershire sauce for extra depth. Once the cabbage leaves were stuffed, they were tightly rolled up and placed in a baking dish, where they were simmered in a rich tomato sauce, often with a touch of sugar or vinegar to balance the acidity. The result was a dish that was both savory and slightly sweet, with the cabbage becoming wonderfully soft and infused with the flavors of the filling and sauce. Cabbage rolls were particularly popular in the 70s because of their versatility and ability to stretch ingredients. The ground meat could be stretched with rice, making it a more affordable meal, and the dish could be customized based on what was available or in season. It was the kind of meal that worked well as leftovers, with the flavors deepening the next day. Families could make a big batch, knowing that they'd have plenty to feed everyone. For busy households, cabbage rolls could also be prepared ahead of time, then popped in the oven to bake when it was time for dinner, making them a great option for hectic weeknights or special occasions. The dish also had the added benefit of being incredibly filling, providing comfort and sustenance, especially during the colder months. While it may not be as widely popular today, cabbage rolls remain a nostalgic reminder of home-cooked, hearty meals that brought families together around the dinner table in the 1970s. Chicken fried steak. Chicken fried steak, a true Southern classic, was a dish that made its way into many American kitchens during the 1970s, particularly in the Midwest and South. Known for its crispy, golden coating and tender beef interior, chicken fried steak was a beloved comfort food that epitomized the decade's love for hearty, indulgent meals. It was the kind of dish that made you feel like you were eating something special while still being straightforward enough for a family dinner. Served with creamy gravy and mashed potatoes, it quickly became a favorite that was both satisfying and comforting. The dish itself starts with a thin cut of beef, usually a tenderized round steak, which is seasoned, breaded, and deep-fried to perfection. The breading is a crucial part of the experience, typically made with flour, salt, pepper, and sometimes a bit of garlic powder or cayenne pepper for an extra kick. After frying, the steak is crisp on the outside, while the meat stays juicy and tender on the inside. The real magic, however, comes with the gravy. Made from the pan, drippings, flour, and milk, the gravy is poured over the crispy steak, transforming it into a rich, comforting meal that pairs perfectly with mashed potatoes or biscuits. The contrast between the crunchy coating and the creamy gravy made every bite feel indulgent. Chicken fried steak became especially popular in the 1970s for its comforting, no-frills nature. It was the kind of dish that could be made for a family dinner or served to guests at a casual get-together. The simplicity of the ingredients, beef, flour, milk, and seasonings, meant that it could be whipped up relatively easily, yet it still felt like an indulgence. Families on a budget loved it because it made a little meat go a long way, and leftovers could be enjoyed the next day as well. Whether it was a Sunday dinner or a weeknight meal, chicken fried steak satisfied those cravings for something crispy, comforting, and full of flavor. It became the quintessential comfort food of the 70s, the kind of dish that stuck to your ribs and left you feeling full and content. Pineapple upside-down cake. Pineapple upside-down cake was the dessert that epitomized the sweetness and creativity of the 1970s. This retro treat was a favorite in kitchens across America, offering a beautiful and nostalgic way to finish off a meal. With its vibrant, caramelized pineapple rings and bright maraschino cherries arranged on top, the cake was not only delicious, but also visually striking. The combination of butter, brown sugar, and the juicy sweetness of the pineapple created a simple yet delightful dessert that became a hallmark of family gatherings, potlucks, and holiday feasts. The magic of pineapple upside-down cake began with the fruit topping. Pineapple rings were arranged in a skillet or baking pan, then sprinkled with a generous amount of brown sugar and butter. As the cake baked, the sugar and butter caramelized, creating a golden, syrupy layer that perfectly complemented the tender pineapple. The batter, made from a simple mixture of flour, sugar, eggs, and a little vanilla, was poured over the fruit and baked until golden. After baking, the cake was flipped over, revealing the beautifully caramelized fruit on top, making for a show-stopping presentation that was as much about the visual impact as it was about the flavor. What made pineapple upside-down cake so beloved in the 1970s was its combination of ease and elegance. It was a dessert that didn't require advanced baking skills, yet it still had that wow factor when served to guests. The cake's sweet, buttery flavor paired perfectly with the tartness of the pineapple, while the moist cake provided a lovely contrast to the caramelized fruit topping. It also became a staple for dinner parties, family gatherings, and special occasions, offering a taste of nostalgia with every bite. The 1970s were full of colorful, fun, and indulgent desserts, and pineapple upside-down cake stood out as a classic, beloved treat that remains a symbol of retro baking at its finest. It wasn't just a dessert, it was a reminder of simpler times, when a cake could be both comforting and visually spectacular. Spaghetti and meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs was one of the ultimate comfort foods of the 1970s, a dish that brought a little piece of Italy to American dinner tables. While this iconic meal has its roots in Italian-American cuisine, it became a staple of family dinners throughout the decade, thanks to its hearty, flavorful nature and the fact that it could easily feed a crowd. Spaghetti, with its long, perfectly cooked strands of pasta, was generously topped with rich marinara sauce and paired with tender, juicy meatballs. Whether served with a side of garlic bread or a simple salad, this dish was the definition of satisfying comfort. The dish starts with the meatballs, ground beef or a combination of beef and pork, mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, Parmesan cheese, garlic, and herbs like basil and oregano. After being shaped into meatballs, they were browned in a pan before being simmered in a flavorful tomato sauce until cooked through. The marinara sauce, made from crushed tomatoes, garlic, onions, and Italian seasonings, became the perfect base to soak up all the savory goodness of the meatballs. Once the meatballs were ready, the pasta was boiled to al dente perfection and topped with the sauce and meatballs. A sprinkle of Parmesan cheese on top rounded out the dish, creating a rich, comforting meal that was hard to resist. What made spaghetti and meatballs so beloved in the 70s was its simplicity and versatility. It could be made in large batches, making it perfect for feeding a hungry family or entertaining guests. The dish also allowed for a bit of creativity. Some cooks added extra spices to the sauce, while others used a blend of meats in the meatballs. Leftovers were even better the next day, as the flavors had time to meld together. Spaghetti and meatballs was the kind of dish that never went out of style, consistently delivering on flavor, heartiness, and the comfort that everyone craved. It was more than just a meal. It was a tradition, a warm reminder of family meals shared around the dinner table, and a timeless favorite that remains loved to this day. Chicken Parmesan. Chicken Parmesan was a beloved dish in the 1970s, capturing the era's love for rich, comforting meals with a touch of sophistication. Italian-American cuisine was on the rise during this time, and chicken Parmesan became a standout as families began embracing pasta dishes and cheesy indulgence. The crispy, golden-breaded chicken, smothered in marinara sauce and melted mozzarella, was the perfect blend of textures and flavors, offering both crunch and tenderness in every bite. It was a dish that could be made for a weeknight meal or served at special occasions, quickly becoming a favorite in homes across the country. The preparation of chicken Parmesan starts with boneless chicken breasts, which are first dipped in flour, then egg wash, and finally breaded with a mixture of breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese. After being pan-fried until golden brown, the chicken is topped with marinara sauce and a generous amount of melted mozzarella cheese, then baked until the cheese is bubbly and slightly browned. The result is a crispy, flavorful crust on the outside, with juicy, tender chicken on the inside, all brought together by the tangy sauce and gooey cheese. Served over a bed of pasta or with a side of garlic bread, chicken Parmesan is the ultimate comfort food, offering a little bit of everything: crunch, cheese, sauce, and a hearty protein. What made chicken Parmesan so popular in the 70s was its simplicity and indulgence. It was an accessible dish for home cooks who wanted to create something a bit more upscale without needing to be a professional chef. While pasta dishes like spaghetti and lasagna were already staples in American homes, chicken Parmesan offered a variation on the classic Italian flavors while still feeling approachable. The dish also fit well into the 70s trend of creating dishes that felt a little more elegant and refined without being complicated. Whether it was for a family dinner, a dinner party, or a celebratory meal, chicken Parmesan had a way of turning an ordinary night into something a little more special, all while delivering big on flavor and satisfaction. Taco salad was also a product of the 70s' love for convenience and innovation. Prepackaged taco seasoning and ready-made tortilla chips made the dish easy to assemble without much effort, which was a huge plus in a decade that valued efficiency in the kitchen. But despite its simplicity, taco salad was anything but boring. It brought together the textures of crisp lettuce, crunchy chips, and creamy dressing, along with the savory flavors of seasoned beef, creating a meal that felt both indulgent and refreshing. Taco salad became a beloved staple of the 70s, serving as a symbol of the era's love for bold, colorful meals that could be made quickly and shared with friends and family. Whether it was served on a casual weeknight or as part of a festive gathering, taco salad offered a delicious taste of the times. Baked ham with pineapple. Baked ham with pineapple was one of the standout dishes of the 1970s, a meal that managed to feel both festive and comforting at the same time. This dish took a humble cut of pork and elevated it with the sweet and tangy flavors of pineapple, making it perfect for family dinners, holiday feasts, and special occasions. The combination of tender, savory ham and the vibrant, caramelized pineapple topping became a beloved classic, embodying the decade's love for bold, sweet, salty flavor pairings and eye-catching presentations that wowed guests at the dinner table. The dish typically began with a bone-in ham, often scored with a diamond pattern to allow the glaze to seep in and create a crispy, caramelized crust. The glaze itself was a simple but flavorful concoction, usually made from brown sugar, honey, Dijon mustard, and pineapple juice. Pineapple rings were placed over the surface of the ham, and maraschino cherries often dotted the center of the rings for an extra burst of color. The ham was then slow roasted in the oven, allowing the glaze to melt and create a rich, sticky coating. As it baked, the pineapple caramelized, its natural sugars blending with the ham's salty richness, creating the perfect balance of sweet and savory flavors. Once removed from the oven, the ham was sliced, revealing tender meat with the sweet pineapple glaze dripping over each piece. What made baked ham with pineapple so popular in the 70s was its versatility and visual appeal. While it was often the centerpiece of holiday dinners like Easter or Christmas, it could also be served for a special Sunday dinner or when entertaining guests. The dish allowed cooks to create a stunning presentation with minimal effort, as the vibrant pineapple rings and glossy glaze provided a dramatic touch to the meal. The richness of the ham paired beautifully with the bright, tangy pineapple, making every bite a delightful combination of flavors. It was a dish that worked well with side dishes like mashed potatoes, green beans, or even a simple tossed salad, creating a balanced and satisfying meal. Another factor in the popularity of baked ham with pineapple during the 70s was its practicality. A large ham could easily feed a crowd, making it ideal for larger family gatherings or dinner parties. Leftovers could be used in sandwiches, casseroles, or soups, allowing families to stretch the meal over several days. For many, it was a dish that brought people together, whether for a holiday celebration or a casual weekend meal. The combination of ease, flavor, and festive flair made baked ham with pineapple an enduring favorite that captured the essence of 1970s home cooking, a time when meals were meant to be both satisfying and memorable, with just the right touch of sweetness. Corned beef and cabbage. Corned beef and cabbage became an iconic dish in the 1970s, particularly for St. Patrick's Day celebrations, but its hearty, simple ingredients made it a favorite in American homes year-round. This dish, with its roots in Irish cuisine, was widely embraced in the US during the 20th century and grew even more popular in the 1970s as both an affordable and comforting meal. The tender, salty corned beef, paired with the earthy cabbage and root vegetables, made for a satisfying one-pot dinner that could easily feed a family. While it was often considered a holiday meal, corned beef and cabbage became synonymous with good home cooking, simplicity, and tradition. The preparation of corned beef and cabbage is straightforward but requires patience. The corned beef, typically a brisket that has been cured with salt and pickling spices, was simmered for several hours until it became incredibly tender and easy to shred. As the beef cooked, it infused the water with a rich, salty flavor, creating a flavorful base for the vegetables. Once the beef was nearly done, carrots, onions, and potatoes were added to the pot, absorbing the salty, savory broth. Finally, cabbage wedges were added in the last 30 minutes of cooking, allowing them to soften without turning mushy. The cabbage absorbed the flavors of the meat and broth, creating a delicious balance to the richness of the beef. Served with a dollop of mustard or horseradish on the side, corned beef and cabbage was a complete meal in itself, simple, satisfying, and full of flavor. What made corned beef and cabbage so popular in the 1970s was its affordability and the ease of preparation. The brisket of corned beef was inexpensive compared to other cuts of meat, making it a go-to for families on a budget. Additionally, the fact that it was a one-pot meal made cleanup easy, while still offering a hearty meal that could be enjoyed by many. Leftovers were often used to create corned beef sandwiches the next day, adding even more value to the dish. It also had the perfect balance of rich, savory meat and lighter vegetables, making it a satisfying yet not overly heavy meal. While corned beef and cabbage is still a popular dish around St. Patrick's Day, its widespread appeal in the 70s marked it as a staple in homes across the country. It was a dish that brought people together, whether for a holiday gathering or a casual Sunday dinner. The simplicity of the dish, coupled with its flavor-packed broth and tender meat, made it the kind of meal that could warm you up on a chilly evening. It was a reminder of the era's love for hearty, reliable meals, and remains a nostalgic symbol of home-cooked comfort. Shrimp cocktail. Shrimp cocktail was the epitome of 70s elegance, a dish that made any dinner party or special occasion feel like a celebration. Served chilled in a cocktail glass or on a platter with a tangy cocktail sauce, this dish oozed sophistication and became a symbol of the decade's love for exotic or fancy meals. Though shrimp itself wasn't necessarily new to American cuisine, serving it in cocktail form with its bold, zesty sauce felt like a stylish departure from the more common dishes of the time. It was a simple yet elegant appetizer that made a statement at parties, family gatherings, and holiday dinners. The dish consisted of plump, chilled shrimp arranged around a glass or plate with a generous serving of cocktail sauce for dipping. The cocktail sauce, typically made with ketchup, horseradish, and a dash of lemon, provided the perfect balance of sweet, tangy, and spicy that complemented the shrimp's natural sweetness. The beauty of shrimp cocktail lay in its simplicity. Just a few ingredients, yet when presented correctly, it was an impressive starter that elevated any meal. It wasn't just about the shrimp, but the presentation and the experience of enjoying something that felt like an upscale treat. Shrimp cocktail's popularity in the 70s was driven by the decade's fascination with fancy dishes that still felt accessible to home cooks. As people became more adventurous with their cooking, shrimp cocktails were a way to add a touch of sophistication without needing to be a professional chef. The dish was easy to prepare, yet it had a sense of luxury, making it perfect for holiday dinners, cocktail parties, or festive gatherings. Although it may seem a bit retro now, shrimp cocktail remains one of those dishes forever linked to the glamour and flair of the 1970s, a time when food could make even the simplest occasion feel a little more special. Lasagna. Lasagna became a beloved family favorite in the 1970s, as Italian-American cuisine continued to rise in popularity across the United States. The layers of pasta, cheese, savory meat sauce, and melted mozzarella made it the ultimate comfort food, filling, hearty, and satisfying in every bite. Lasagna was more than just a meal. It was a centerpiece, often reserved for family gatherings, special occasions, or Sunday dinners. It had that perfect balance of flavors that made it a standout dish, while still being easy enough to prepare for a weeknight meal when you needed something comforting. The dish was built in layers, with wide sheets of pasta providing the structure, while ricotta cheese, mozzarella, and Parmesan formed a rich, creamy filling. The star of the dish, though, was the meat sauce, often made with ground beef or pork, simmered with tomatoes, garlic, onions, and a mix of Italian herbs like basil and oregano. Each layer of pasta, sauce, and cheese was carefully stacked, then baked until golden and bubbling. The result was a bubbling pan of deliciousness, with the rich tomato sauce blending beautifully with the creamy cheeses and tender pasta, all held together in perfect harmony. What made lasagna so popular in the 70s was not just its taste, but also its versatility. It was a dish that could be easily adapted to suit different tastes or dietary preferences. Ground meat could be substituted for sausage, or even made vegetarian with layers of spinach or mushrooms. It was also a great make-ahead meal, allowing busy families to prepare it in advance and simply bake it when needed. Lasagna also felt like a communal dish, something to be shared with loved ones around the table. It was comforting, rich, and full of flavor, making it the perfect choice for feeding a crowd or creating a memorable family meal. Lasagna captured the heart of 1970s, cooking by delivering both indulgence and ease in one delicious package. Clam Chowder. Clam chowder was a dish that embodied the warmth and comfort of the 1970s, filling homes with its creamy, rich aroma and becoming a quintessential part of American cuisine. Though the dish hails from New England, it gained widespread popularity across the U.S. during the 70s, thanks to its hearty nature and soothing qualities, making it the perfect choice for chilly evenings. The velvety texture of the soup, combined with the briny, tender clams and the subtle flavors of bacon, potatoes, and cream, created a comforting bowl of goodness that quickly became a favorite in both homes and restaurants alike. The classic version of clam chowder is made with fresh or canned clams, their natural sweetness providing the base for the dish. The clams are simmered in a rich, creamy broth made with milk, heavy cream, butter, and sometimes a bit of chicken stock for extra depth. Bacon or salt pork is often included, adding a savory, slightly smoky flavor that complements the brininess of the clams. Diced potatoes and onions round out the dish, their soft textures melding with the broth to create a soup that is filling yet smooth. Seasonings like thyme, bay leaves, and parsley enhance the overall flavor, and the dish is often thickened with a bit of flour or a roux. It's the kind of soup that feels like a warm hug in a bowl. What made clam chowder such a hit in the 1970s was its comforting qualities and its versatility. It could be served as a starter for a formal dinner or enjoyed as a casual lunch. In fact, clam chowder was often found on the menu at family restaurants, diners, and seafood shacks, becoming a symbol of 70s dining. Its creamy consistency made it a perfect accompaniment to a piece of crusty bread or crackers, and it could be customized with extra seasonings or garnishes like freshly cracked black pepper or a sprinkle of chopped parsley. The 70s saw a rise in the appreciation of soups and stews, and clam chowder was one of the most beloved, thanks to its rich flavor and satisfying texture. Whether served in a bowl with a spoon or in a bread bowl, clam chowder was more than just a meal. It was a comforting experience that brought people together, evoking feelings of nostalgia for simpler times and hearty, satisfying meals shared with loved ones. As we wrap up our journey through these 30 classic dishes from the 1970s, it's clear that the decade was all about comfort, creativity, and making the most of simple ingredients. These meals may have fallen out of favor over the years, but they still hold a special place in the hearts of those who remember them. From the creamy richness of beef stroganoff to the crispy indulgence of chicken fried steak, each dish tells a story of resourcefulness, tradition, and family. Whether served on a busy weeknight or at a special gathering, these meals brought people together and made memories that have lasted for generations. So, the next time you're in the kitchen, why not take a step back in time and try one of these nostalgic classics? There's something timeless about the flavors and warmth they bring to the table. Happy cooking, and here's to reviving the meals that made the 70s so delicious. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole was a quintessential dish of the 1970s, capturing the era's love for convenient, comforting meals that could be easily thrown together using pantry staples. This creamy, cheesy casserole quickly became a favorite for busy families, offering a filling and hearty dinner that didn't require much preparation or time in the kitchen. With its blend of egg noodles, canned tuna, peas, and a rich creamy sauce, tuna noodle casserole provided both affordability and satisfaction. It was the kind of dish that felt like a warm hug after a long day and could easily be prepared ahead of time for a quick meal. The base of tuna noodle casserole was simple but effective. Egg noodles, cooked until tender, were combined with canned tuna, peas, and a sauce made from cream of mushroom soup, milk, and often a bit of cheese. The sauce gave the casserole its creamy texture and savory depth, while the tuna added a protein-packed punch. The dish was then topped with breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips, which would toast to a golden, crunchy finish during baking, creating a delightful contrast with the smooth, cheesy interior. Whether baked in a casserole dish or a simple baking pan, the end result was a comforting meal that could easily serve a family without breaking the bank. What made tuna noodle casserole so beloved in the 70s was its combination of convenience, affordability, and versatility. Canned tuna was an inexpensive, long-lasting protein that made it easy for families to stretch a meal, and the casserole could be customized with whatever ingredients were on hand. Some cooks added a bit of grated cheese to the sauce for extra richness, while others threw in chopped onions, bell peppers, or mushrooms to create different layers of flavor. Leftovers were just as satisfying, and the casserole could even be made in large batches, making it the perfect dish for families who needed to stretch their grocery budget. In the 70s, with its emphasis on practicality and resourcefulness, tuna noodle casserole became a staple for those who wanted a quick, easy, and satisfying meal. Beyond its practicality, tuna noodle casserole became a nostalgic comfort food, especially for those who grew up during the 1970s. The simplicity of the dish and the warm, cheesy aroma that filled the house while it baked gave it a special place in many families' hearts. It was a dish that required little thought, but still delivered big on flavor and satisfaction, making it a favorite in homes across the country. Whether served as a weeknight dinner or brought to a potluck, tuna noodle casserole was a reliable go-to that represented the resourcefulness and warmth of 70s home cooking, when meals were meant to be filling, practical, and above all, comforting. Pineapple upside-down cake. Pineapple upside-down cake was a beloved dessert of the 1970s, capturing the era's flair for vibrant, visually striking sweets that also delivered on taste. This retro treat was a showstopper at family gatherings, potlucks, and holiday meals, offering a unique blend of sweet and slightly tangy flavors. The dish was both easy to make and delightful to serve, thanks to its stunning presentation and irresistible taste. What made pineapple upside-down cake so special was not just its flavor, but the unexpected joy it brought when flipped over, revealing perfectly caramelized pineapple rings, cherries, and a golden, moist cake beneath. The cake begins with a base layer of pineapple rings, arranged carefully in a round cake pan. Maraschino cherries were often nestled in the center of each pineapple ring, adding a pop of color and sweetness. The magic happens when a mixture of butter, brown sugar, and pineapple juice is poured over the fruit. As the cake bakes, the sugar and butter create a glossy, caramelized topping that coats the fruit and infuses it with rich, sweet flavor. A simple cake batter, made from flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and vanilla, is poured over the pineapple and baked until golden and fluffy. Once the cake is done, it's carefully flipped over onto a serving plate, revealing a stunning array of pineapple rings topped with glistening caramelized sugar, making it not only delicious, but a feast for the eyes. What made pineapple upside-down cake so popular in the 1970s was its versatility and the sense of occasion it brought to any meal. It wasn't just a dessert, it was an experience. The cake's vibrant colors and impressive presentation made it perfect for everything from family dinners to more formal events. Additionally, the flavors of pineapple and brown sugar, combined with the moistness of the cake, created a delicious balance of sweetness that worked well after a hearty meal. Though the cake's origins date back to earlier decades, it became a definitive 70s dessert, reflecting the period's appreciation for bright, fun, and easy-to-make treats. In addition to being visually appealing, pineapple upside-down cake was loved for its simplicity. With just a few basic ingredients and minimal prep time, home cooks could create a dessert that felt like a special treat. Leftovers could be enjoyed the next day, with the flavors deepening and the cake becoming even more moist. The combination of the sweet, caramelized pineapple with the soft, fluffy cake made every bite feel indulgent. For many, it wasn't just a dessert. It was a nostalgic reminder of a simpler time when desserts were all about fun flavors and memorable presentations. Pineapple upside-down cake has remained a beloved classic, forever tied to the colorful and carefree spirit of the 1970s